So may I start? So, a very good evening to distinguished patrons. I am Akash Arora, and on this platform of spiritual trajectory, I will be taking you in for scoping real aim with our speakers. अगला पड़ाव इस गाथा का हमें आध्यात्म, विज्ञान और साहित्य से जोड़ता है, जिससे जीवन जीने की कला आती है। साइंस में एटम्स एंड मॉलिक्यूल्स होते हैं, जो कि जीवन की मूल इकाई यानी कि बेसिक यूनिट्स होते हैं। और स्पिरिचुअलिटी एक अनदेखी दिशा और एक अनसुलझे रहस्य से हमें इनसे जोड़ता है। और लिटरेचर साइंस के साथ मिलके इस पूरे विषय को एक नए नजरिए से प्रस्तुत करता है। इस बहुआयामी विषय पे और प्रकाश डालने मैं बुलाना चाहूंगा डॉक्टर अनिल राजवंशी एंड मिस दीक्षा अवस्थी को। Talking about Dr. Anil Rajvanshi, since 1981, Anil Rajvanshi has been the director of NARI in Maharashtra. The work Dr. Rajvanshi has done in solar energy and rural development, spending more than 35 years. Dr. Rajvanshi was inducted into the Solar Hall of Fame. He has been honored with the Jamanlal Bajaj Award, the Federation of Indian Chambers of Commerce and Industry Award, the Energy Globe Award. In addition, he has received the Globe Award for Sustainability Research. He was the first Indian to receive the University of Florida's Distinguished Alumnus Award. It was recently announced that he was one of the most notable alumni of IIT Kanpur. Talking about Ms. Diksha Avasthi, she has versatile experience in R&D, strategic planning, and market research. A graduate of IIT Kanpur, she is well known for her expertise in delivering technology solutions that drive growth and profitability. She is part of the advisory board of organizations and also a member of board at AAIIT Kanpur and mentor at First Incubation Center, IIT Kanpur. She is currently the National Director of Entrepreneurship and Enterprises. So we will talk to Mr. Rajvanshi. Next voice of Dr. Rajvanshi, please.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Is
sir,
the
you are.
voice all right? Okay.
Yes, sir.
First of all, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I am delighted to take part in this Utsav, and I would like to thank Amit and Diksha, the organizers of this function, for the invitation. I have been asked to speak on science and spirituality, something that I have been writing for the last 20 years, mostly as articles in Speaking Tree, which are published in Times of India, Huffington Post, Thrive Global, which is a platform by Ariana Huffington, and other websites like South Asia Monitor, etc. I also have two books published on this subject. One is The Nature of Human Thought, and the other is Exploring the Mind of God. Both these books I have made available free of cost on the net, and if you can Google them, then you will get the links to them. To my mind, there is no dichotomy between science and spirituality. Spirituality is basically going deeper into self or anything else. When we think deeply and for a long time about anything, whether it is an idea or an object, then the brain has a tendency of focusing on it like a laser. And in that process, the object vanishes from the vision field and only its germ or the spirit remains. Then the complete knowledge of that idea or the object results and is called Sayam by Patanjali. Patanjali has said that when you apply contemplation, reflection, and samadhi on any object or a subject, then its complete knowledge comes. And that is what he calls Sayam. And this is the mechanism by which all great discoveries are made. All people who have made the greatest discoveries of this planet Earth, they focused on their object of whatever they were looking at with a tremendous deep concentration, and they discovered some of these things. It is also called plucking something from the air. It is this deep thinking on anything which makes us spiritual and gives us a sense of peace and happiness. Spirituality is not a religion. In fact, any time when people talk about spirituality, they immediately think that you're talking about religion. Spirituality and religion are poles apart. Spirituality is a state of mind that makes it understand the truth is beyond the barriers of worldliness, religion, caste, creed, race, or geographical boundaries. It connects us to the marvels of nature in a deep way and subsequently to the universal consciousness or the mind of God. Thus, spirituality is basically the discovery of truth. Science is also about the discovery of truth in terms of physical world. Scientists look at the smallest things in nature to the largest in galaxies, etc., and are also trying to discover the truth about how the structure of universe is made and what is life and how it evolved. Both the paths, according to me, those of science and spirituality, therefore lead to the same goal, and that is to find the truth and ultimately universal consciousness. Thus, I feel that all true scientists are spiritualists and not religious. And this is something that we have to think about, because anytime when you talk about that, that scientist has so much religion, or he's focused on this, then he's not a true scientist. Because when we are looking for truth, we don't look for isms, we are looking only for truth. The oldest book on this subject of spirituality and science is Patanjali's Yoga Darshan, where he talks about the science of thought control. It is an ancient book and probably the originator of all yoga practice. We do not know when it was written, but it has come down to us through ages and from ancient times. Interestingly, Patanjali also talks about getting supernatural powers through the science of thought control. In fact, one fourth of his book, the third section of the book, which is called as the Vibhutipad, is only about the subject of getting supernatural powers. These powers, according to Patanjali, helps yogi master the natural elements so that his physical life becomes better and he can focus his mind on the understanding of universal consciousness so that he can get liberated from the cycle of birth and death. In fact, all the discussion in the great Indian spiritual tradition is about how to get out of the cycle of birth and death through different methods. Thus, Patanjali talks about spirituality and technology, since by getting supernatural powers, a yogi masters the natural elements, which is what technology does. I've been writing about spirituality and technology for the last 20 years, and in this endeavor have been greatly influenced by Patanjali's Yoga Darshan. I feel, therefore, that the mantra of development for India and the world should be technology guided by spirituality can produce happiness and nirvana. In fact, my latest book, Exploring the Mind of God, is about this theme only. I have made this book freely available on the net. Please Google it and you will see the link. If you cannot, unfortunately, I cannot put in the on here. So the URL is Nari Fulton, nariphaltan.org/sthbook.pdf. STH is in capital, book is in small letters, .pdf. And the whole book is available on the net. Now, we all aspire for happiness. In fact, whatever we do it for happiness. Some get happiness by fame, by money, by whatever means. But whatever our endeavor is, we all want happiness. Thus, all of us aspire to have a good life and happiness. It is what drives us in life. There are as many definitions of happiness as there are people. But generally, people want a decent place to live, mobility, good and wholesome food, good education for their children, clean environment, a challenging and pleasant workplace, good and wholesome entertainment, and enough money and resources to meet their usual daily requirements. I think I have covered almost all the things that people want to get happiness. Yet these are the issues around which the modern industrial societies have evolved, and this has resulted and created the biggest problem of totally unsustainable lifestyles fueled by greed. Thus, the climate change, food shortages, economic meltdown, increasing pandemics. In fact, I have written a lot of articles on how unsustainable lifestyle has led to a lot of these pandemics that we are seeing today. And other subsequent social problems are the direct result of our greed for resources and energy. Hence, the control of greed, or better yet, the sublimation of greed emotions into higher ones, like humility and simplicity, can lead to sustainability, happiness, and rewarding life. Happiness is a state of mind. We feel happy and enjoy life through our senses and the mind. The brain processes the information from the senses, and they are from five senses, and our level of happiness is dictated by its processing power. A powerful brain or the processor which produces the deep thought can therefore extract more information from the sensory signals and give us more happiness as it is easily able to satisfy the mind. Besides, this very powerful brain or a great processor can look at a great number of eventualities and hence can resolve the issues amicably. Now, to my mind, this is a central theme that when you make your brain very powerful, then all other issues go into the background because then if you apply that powerful brain to anything, the solution results and you get much more happiness and peace of mind. A smaller processor obviously needs many more inputs to reach the same enjoyment or satisfaction level. Thus, weaker brains need more resources to occupy them, and this leads to greed and unsustainable lifestyle. Therefore, one of the prerequisites to having happiness and consequently a sustainable lifestyle is the development of a very powerful and smart brain. Such a brain allows us to think deeply or concentrate on any subject during which we can get lost in processing the information about it. And this is the genesis of spirituality. Because when you focus your mind very deeply on anything, it has not to be a god, it has not to be anything that you put your mind to, which you think very deeply, that is the start of spirituality. Such a brain is cultivated with a long practice of meditation. This practice and discipline should start from childhood. Thus, teaching children the art of meditation and concentration is a foremost need, and if possible, each one of us should consider it as our duty to educate them on this subject. I run a small school. I do not run. My daughter runs a small school. We started the school here in Fulton for my daughters. And now my younger daughter is a trustee and the main person to run the school. And we find that not only here, but all over the country, the attention deficit syndrome, all the children are not able to focus their mind on anything. And that is the main reason why we all have become so tuned to our SMS and other things because we want instantaneous feedback and we cannot wait for if the SMS does not come in a second and then we become very jittery. And I feel that if we can inculcate in our children the habit of thinking, meditating, and concentrating, then it will help them tremendously later in life. Not only do we need to educate them about it, but we should also practice it ourselves. Children know where it is coming from. They feel that if you practice, if you say something that you have done in your life, then it has a much greater impact. Thus, we adults have to show them the way and direction, and children learn much faster and better by observation. Thus, I feel young students should be taught about spirituality throughout their curriculum, starting from school and through colleges, so that they become better citizens and can focus their energies in creating happiness for themselves and on developing technologies for betterment of mankind. Now I come on the subject of technology. Since time immemorial, mankind has always strived to make their life easier. This has been the engine of technological innovation and growth. Technological progress also unravels a lot of hidden areas of nature and shows us how it performs its miracles. In doing this, technology helps us understand the power and greatness of nature. For example, and there are millions of such examples, humans had felt that they had invented and developed fiber optics. In fact, all our communication is by fiber optics. You cannot imagine the modern day world without fiber optics. However, scientists have found that the root systems of all plants are excellent optical fibers, something that has existed in nature for millions of years. Plant roots need light. They are buried under the ground, they cannot get light. So the plants have developed this fantastic mechanism of roots as an optical fiber. So the solar energy filtered through the stem passes to the roots or goes to the roots through this optical fiber system. However, this knowledge could only come once we had enough technology for creating fiber optics, lasers, etc. Thus, a new science of biomimicry or copy the nature is developing, where we are finding that nature, which has billions of years of head start, has far better answers than we have in almost every aspect of life, and hence realization has dawned on us that our technological progress will take a quantum leap by copying nature's designs. In fact, we discover daily that there is nothing new under the sun, and all our inventions have been preceded by nature's brilliant designs developed millions of years ago. I therefore feel that as we progress ahead in the technological area, we will discover the great laws of nature and ultimately God. For God, according to my understanding, is nothing else but this marvelous universe which follows its own scientific laws. Development of technology by itself and for its own sake is a double edged sword. It can be used both for benefiting and destroying the mankind. And there are millions of examples for that. I feel that it is the law of evolution that as we evolve spiritually, we also become a technologically advanced civilization. This is a central theme of my talk. And this is because when we apply our sharpened brains to any problem, then the solution results. And also, spiritual advancement gives us wisdom to utilize the technology judiciously for mankind's benefits. This is also the reason why Patanjali has put the conquest of physical nature or getting the supernatural powers as a third chapter in his fourth chapter book. His first two chapters are how to make your brain very powerful, and only after you do that, then you get these spiritual powers that he talks about. So, what is the way forward? The way forward is firstly, we should improve ourselves by cultivating the habit of focused thought. This will help us become spiritual and better human beings and will help us reduce our greed. Secondly, we should use the technology to improve our environment. Improvement of environment should be based upon doing it for the sake of helping mankind, not for the greed, not for making too much money, not for other things. This can happen when our greed for money, fame, and resources is reduced through spirituality. I feel that both these activities will create a better and holistic world for the future of mankind and future generations. Thank you very much.
Right, that's wonderful. That is wonderful. I think a lot of important points you have covered in this discussion. Especially, I like the last part where you said sharpened mind can actually do better technology, and that is what we need to understand. If at all we need anything, we need to sharpen our mind. And I think I will take it up from here where you left. I'll pick it up from here. So, if I may introduce myself, I am a founder of Diksha Life, where we are trying to understand scientific evidences of spiritual practices, where we are trying to rationalize things. I am helping so that I feel that when we rationalize, when we put it logically, our youngsters will be able to adapt that much easily and much faster way, as you discussed just now. And apart from that, I'm a global mental health ambassador, global impact ambassador, and I do work with a lot of different kind of organizations globally to help them strategically as well. So basically, on a professional front, I try to inculcate very strong ethics based things work, and otherwise on my work I focus my spirituality and science mixture. So where is this science coming from? I am a clinical genomic scientist as well, so I did my research on rare inherited disorders on children, and then about somatic and germline cancers as well. So I feel universe gave me this opportunity to understand life in a 360 degree, so that we could integrate everything together and now start making sense. So ever since around 14 years of my age, I started asking these fundamental questions: why am I here, what is this happening, and all those. So that led me to a lot of spiritual friends and centers where I went. I learned different kind of meditations, different forms and all. But eventually it ended up that I understood that I have to work on myself. I have to actually find my answers, and that is why it started coming. So I am trying to bring that perspective here. Pandemic, as you rightly said, has triggered mass awakening. So most of us are actually going through spiritual awakening process right now. But I think we don't understand, most of us don't understand, but because it's a rabbit hole, it's a very very unknown zone, and our ego, our mind does not like that. So anything unknown, it just rejects. So when you say somebody that, oh, this is part of your spiritual awakening process, that person will say, no, 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 don't talk me all that. As you rightly said, that spirituality has been misunderstood as religion. So it is not religion. We are talking about much deeper, much integrated stuff, but people do get confused at that point of time. So what I do, I actually work at an intersection of neurobiology, psychology, and energy healing research work. So neurobiology, so that we understand how brain works, how neurons, and how our actions, nerves, everything, so that we understand brain properly. And then psychology, to understand how mind works. Now the organ brain and the action mind, how it works, how it manifests in a shadow aspects of your personality, how you develop in a child wounds, how all these psychological issues come up. And then I integrate everything with the energy healing aspect, where how aura is created, how it is depleted, what makes your chakras empowered or deplete, all those. So I try to bring all these perspective, and I think it is helping some of people whom I work with. So I thought I will share six, seven couple of crucial tips which I thought as a youngster I want my fellow people to understand that and integrate it in their daily life. We brought it down into a very very simple term so that we all can be at same page. So the first one which I would like to say is ask questions. What happens is, we all have these deep questions within ourselves: ki, why am I here, what is this happening in our life, and all those things, but we don't ask those questions because somewhere, as I said, that ego doesn't like uncertain areas, and our soul knows those things, and our soul knows the moment we get the answers, there will be a radical shift in our life. So if you start contemplating on those answers, when it surfaces, please acknowledge it and start getting those answers, and followed by actions. So you have to do things. Spirituality is about doing. It is not the gyan sessions. It is not just sitting in a satsang. Satsang is good, but actions are more important, I feel, and that is where you see results coming out. Then the second one, which as Dr. Anil also said, quiet your mind. Mind is very powerful, and mind in human sense, I would say, is ego. If we have to quiet it down, it doesn't like anything uncertain. It is very restless energy. It has to settle down. So one of the techniques which I suggest is meditation, as you also very strongly recommended. Meditation helps it. But for those people who feel that meditation is too tough for me, I can't sit for 5 minutes, I cannot quiet my mind. See, whenever you hear these kind of statements, no, I cannot quiet my mind, I cannot stop my mind, all those things, this is a very catch point where you know that your mind is trying to hold you back in a known zone, doesn't want to allow you in an unknown areas. So you have to calm it down. So simpler methods can be dancing or exercising, or maybe yoga, simple yoga techniques, or singing, or any sort of activity which brings your mind to your body. so that you are doing things. When you're doing things calmly, when you do some art or doodle something, you feel very relaxed. That is the kind of state we are initially talking about. And then definitely meditation, mindfulness, and many different forms can help you. Then the third one, which is a major part of my work, is heal your past. It is very huge. We have no idea how much dead weight we carry with this unhealed wounds which we carry with us. We are holding on to a lot of weight, and we cannot let it go also. I mean, I do not never suggest that you just let go, just forget about it, just don't talk about it. No, it is not going anywhere. It is in your body. Actually, your body carries that trauma. So that is what it manifests into a lot of diseases as well. So for example, like a childhood trauma or a sexual physical abuse or death of a loved one or broken relationship, whatever it may be, if it is not healed, it will stay in your body. And that is why I really liked the point which you picked up, that meditation has to be taught to our children, because when you teach them, they know how to process their energies, how to not let these trauma affect them forever. So they know, otherwise we don't know how to process it. I mean, we just carry it with us, we don't know. So we have to let go of that, and it actually interferes with your energy system. So your chakras get blocked because of your holding on to that trauma or guilt or shame or anger, whatever it is. I mean, we are very good in hiding, so most of you will deny that, oh, I have no such problems. We're very good in hiding. But if I ask you, do you have a back pain, or do you have a shoulder pain, or do you put on a lot of weight, these are indications that you're holding a lot of stuff with you. You're not letting it go, and these are interfering in your spiritual journey. So if you really want to step into spirituality, I would suggest, please work on your traumas, heal your past, let go of things while understanding how to let go of it. Don't just dump it under the carpet, because it will not go anywhere. So it will stay with you. And the fourth one, which I would suggest, is balance your energies, like masculine and feminine energy within you. So these become a big hurdle. Actually, we have been trained to think like we are all masculine dominant energies. We are all into doing things. Masculine energy is doing stuff, and feminine energy is being. So when you are being happy, being satisfied, being with you, sorting within, that is masculine, feminine energy. Masculine energy is hustling, is getting your things done, working hard for your dream, all those going out kind of energy. And when it gets wounded, as we saw in the other earlier, that almost all of us are wounded. When it gets wounded, it becomes very aggressive, hyper vigilant, hyper protective. You have been hurt, I won't allow you to go into this path. So that is how it does not allow you, and anybody tries to interfere in that, it just punches. So that is something which is very important. So we have to work on our masculine energies. We have to calm it down. My suggestion would be, tell yourself that you are safe. It is okay to be so. It is part of your learning process. Let it happen, kind of. So it will help you balance your mind as well as masculine energy, and at the same time nourish and nurture your feminine energies. How do you do that? You work on your intentions, work on your intuitions, listen to your inner self. You get all the guidance. It's just that you don't listen to it because you're too much occupied outside. Once you stop and integrate all that knowledge, I really strongly believe that you will start listening to your inner voice as well. Fifth would be, stay present and accept things as it is. I know it is very difficult. It is not easy to stay present because we are almost always either on the in the past or in future. So past and future do not exist. They are only our memories and our expectations. They don't exist. They've just gone. I mean, one has not come and one has gone. So we don't have to live in that. We have to live in present. It is difficult, but we have to do it. Why? Because present moment right now, whatever is happening in your life is trying to teach you something. It's infinite wisdom which is working behind it and trying to make you understand something. Till you accept it, till you accept your present moment, till you accept and learn the wisdom it has got for you, it will keep on repeating itself. You must have gone through a lot of broken relationships, or a repeated money loss, or a repeated job loss, or repeated anything which is repeating itself Please try to observe patterns in your life and know that if it is repeating, it is trying to teach you something which you are missing. That is why it is coming again and again. You work on something, you make sure that it does not come back, but it will come back again. So don't try to skip this learning path. You have to go through it. So you have to change. Basically what you have to do is radical acceptance. Whatever is happening, just have that wisdom to know that something bigger is working. As Anil said, I really liked it, that we will be decoding the nature, nothing else. I mean, more and more we go deeper into technology, we will only decode the nature itself, nothing else. So the nature knows everything. Your soul knows, your path knows where to go. Only thing is you have to listen, you have to accept things, and when you stay in your present moment, change your perception about present moment, things change radically. You will be surprised how this will never happen to you, how when you were again and again stuck in a pattern and now it never happens to you. So it is my strong recommendation that you stay in present and accept whatever it is. And the last one would be, allow universe to work with you, allow it to guide you. So all of the different dimensions, 3D, 4D, 5D, have their own superpowers, and three dimension has the superpower of free will. So nobody can override your free will. Not even God even does not override your free will. You must have seen in movies or TV here and there that God comes and asks, "What do you want?" And unless and until you say, "What do you want?" they will not give you what you want. They might know, but they will not give, because they cannot override your free will. And similarly, the guides, the universe energy, the angels, whatever you may call it, they cannot override. So you have to allow them, you have to ask for help, you have to allow them, you have to let them work, let them guide you. So that way it is like an integrated process. Now you're not alone, you just know that whole universe is working with you, and that itself is a very beautiful feeling, that you're not alone. There are guidance available. Only thing is, because you're holding very tight, I might, this might not going very well with you. You might feel that, no, it's not like that, what are you talking, I want something, do I get it, no, I don't get it. Think over it, contemplate what I'm trying to suggest here, that you have everything whatever you asked for. You must have said something to receive what you have received right now in your life. So change that dialogue, that will help you. So I would rather say, if you don't know what is best for you, just allow guides to work in your life. So, to summarize those 6 points, ask questions and contemplate answers. Don't leave questions open. Try to find answers. Somebody somewhere will be able to help you with those answers. Quieten the mind. Heal your past so that you don't have that dead energy with you. Balance your masculine and feminine energies. Stay present and accept radically whatever it is. I mean, it might be difficult. Find help, take somebody's help, talk to people, they will help you, and allow universe to work with you. So you will be surprised to know that there are, I mean, as a genetics expert, as a scientist, I can tell you that only 5% of diseases are genetic, which actually happens because you had some genetic mutation. Rest everything we create, actually our situations, epigenetic situations, our environment, the kind of stress we take, the kind of food we eat, this is what we create. All this disease we are creating for ourselves, and we have to be mindful. So that is where I think the mindfulness, the practices, whatever works. I mean, I think for initially, for anybody to start with, simple things will work. That's what my suggestion is, that if we can integrate simple processes. If nothing else, contemplative meditation, I really found it very handy for my growth in during my spiritual awakening. That when you read, contemplate on it, just like Patanjali Sutra, it's gem. It's like so much of information, and every time you read, you find something new out of it. So try to contemplate things. I think that will be a great help during the process. So these are my tips which I wanted to share, and definitely there are a lot of more scientific evidences which we can definitely discuss, but I would like to hear from our viewers. If we have any questions, I would like to take those and answer those.
Yes, ma'am, surely we have a lot of questions. As you mentioned, the first one
your
that comes
voice your voice is not there.
hello.
Yes, this is good.
Ma'am, as you listed your first point, that was to ask questions. So I have received a lot of questions. So may I proceed?
Yes, wonderful.
Ma'am,
Thank you.
first question to you is, how can we leverage this as an opportunity to align our youth, the youth of today?
Yes, so that is what I started with. That is what my work is about. I want everybody logically understand that this is not religion. This is not telling that because that person goes to temple or that person does meditation, doesn't define those way. Please understand, your mind, your brain, your body needs your attention, and give it to yourself instead of giving it to outside world, instead of giving it to social media. Give attention to yourself. Give yourself some time, quiet time in the morning and before you head to bed. These will do magic in your life. I have seen it. I am very sure Anil will also agree with me. These will do magic to you. Simple exercises, and over the period of time, whole day, when you are consuming any content now, just ask yourself, why are you watching this? Why are you going through this? So we are scrolling all day, right? Every time we're just scrolling. We are bored, we're tired, we are scrolling. You know what we are doing? Our subconscious mind does not allow anything to pass. We actually take everything inside. All that you see, everything goes in your subconscious, and that creates a lot of burden on your system. So when you sleep, this comes, and you have to process, right? So when you sleep, subconscious becomes active and it starts processing data. And that is why when you wake up, you're very tired, you have not slept enough, because all the night you were actually sorting things, whether to keep this or let it go, keep that or let it go. That is why you have some random kind of dreams as well, because all that data is getting churned up. So my suggestion to youth is to be, don't follow anything, just follow your body, your attention, and be very mindful with yourself. That would be my suggestion.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah, are there questions for me? I forgot to
Yes, sir.
ask.
Yes,
Okay.
sir, there are questions for you. Sir, religion as an influential factor of spirituality. What are your views on this?
See, as I said, that to my mind, religion is about control. When I want to control you, I tell you that this is my religion and you follow it. When we are all looking for truth, there is no control. And so, in fact, the largest tragedies of this planet Earth have come in the name of ism and religions. Largest number of people have been killed in the name of religion. If we all follow the basic principle of understanding and knowing the truth, then none of these things will come. So, what we should do is we should look at spirituality and not religion, because religion is about all everything about control. So that is what I would like the youth to understand. They should go back understanding themselves, and as they understand themselves, they'll start looking at things from a different point of view. Religion captures your brain because you don't want to think. So somebody tells you, please go and put that ghanta in that mandir, and everything will become all right. What a stupid thing. If you think about it, then you realize that the pandas are the ones who are taking all the money and all the prasad, and what you are getting is nothing.
True.
Yes,
Anything
sir.
else? Yes. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Sir, one more question to you is, what
Ah.
role literature plays in the path of awakening?
You see, literature or any of these things that you read, whether you read well, basically whatever good literature, it it attacks your mind. You feel something about after reading the literature. Basically, you understand some of the things by reading. In fact, you go to the lectures because you are quite lazy, you don't want to read, and also the fact that lectures give you in a very short manner all the most of the information that you can read about that in the books. So literature or anything that you read should help open your mind and should give you much broader perspective in life. So there is no such thing. For example, then you can start asking what is a good literature, what is a average literature, what is a bad literature. So there is a all aspect of how you perceive the same book. One person will perceive in a certain manner. The same book will be perceived by other. So that's basically what it is.
Sir, how would you define spirituality in your words?
Well, I've talked about that. Spirituality is thinking deeply about anything. You see, when you start thinking about, for example, I've given a lot of lectures on these things. Somebody asked me, how do you meditate? So I asked that person, what is the best thing that you enjoy? So she said, samosa. So I said, meditate on samosa because it is a process of thinking deeply. Because samosa starts, that is something that keeps your attention focused on that thing. But as you start going deeper and deeper, the samosa vanishes, the gist remains, and that is what is a whole basis of spirituality. So you can, after all, I have studied very deeply about a lot of these people. Some of the people who are the in the history books. The father of hydrogen bomb was a personal friend of mine in the United States. The father of the Indian of the rocket design, von Braun, I met him. I used to always ask them what fires them. It is the basis of the knowledge. See, after all, when people were working on atom bomb, somebody must have thought, "Ki, after all, this is such a horrible thing. It will kill a lot of people." But it was the germ of the idea. It was the development of a new science. It was the development of new technology, which continued going. And in that process, they became spiritual because they went so deep into the process. So whatever it is, if you go deep into something, then you become spiritual. And the advantage of that is when you go deeper into it, your concentration becomes very strong. When your concentration becomes very strong, then you can apply that concentration to anything and you will get an answer. Today, the biggest problem with the youth is that they are not able to focus. And when they are not able to focus, they cannot contemplate, they cannot reflect, and so they are just reacting to the SMS. So we have become just like animals. Animals react, humans think. Very few of us think now. We are all the time reacting. So there is no difference between a lot of us and the animals. So this is a tragedy.
True.
So very well defined, and personally, I'm very satisfied with this answer. So as you talked about the concentration,
So,
and
so,
ma'am talked about,
so
yes, sir.
will you become a spiritual then with this answer?
Are you
Sure,
a
sir.
spiritual person?
The
That's a
question,
question.
see, this is the question that all the youngsters they should focus on whatever they do, whatever they like, whatever they enjoy. Unless you
That,
focus, then you will not get an answer. Yeah.
that is
Yes,
brilliant,
sir.
actually.
Sir, as you said about concentration and ma'am said about manifestation, chakra healing, sir, there's a question that how to maintain continuity to it, how to stick to it.
See, sticking is when you start developing this process of concentration, which does not come in one day. And I will give you from my own example. For whatever reason, I started doing meditation at the age of 13, and I could have 1 to 1.5 hours very deep meditation, and it gave wonderful ideas, wonderful dreams, wonderful experiences. But at the same time, it allowed a tremendous power of concentration. So even at this age, which I am 71, I can concentrate on a lot of things for a very long time. So it is a training of the mind. If you start doing this concentration part in whatever way you want, on whatever subject you want, it becomes a way of life. And if you do that, then the continuity exists.
True, true. I would add that for youngsters, I would like to add that you can use music as well. So music has a deep impact on our soul. Whatever resonates with you, there are so many different kinds of music available for focus, for work, for concentration, for sleep, for meditation. 100 types of music available there. Just but train your brain for one or two pieces. Not that you use 100 different types every time you're sitting. You're giving yourself something new. Use music as a tool. Some music for your work, some music for your meditation, some music for relaxation. When you're not able to sleep, just put that music, you'll be able to sleep. So that is how you'll get that continuity. Once your brain gets acclimatized with that, you will see that the moment you switch on that music, your brain knows where what to do because you have trained it what to do now. Now focus or now relax, now sleep or now meditate. So that is how I think that's a tool that I would like to give it to all the youngsters, that while you're anyways listening to music, why not listen something empowering?
A very useful one.
Yeah.
Ma'am, the question is to you that it's a very general question. How to find the purpose of our life, the main motive.
That's not a general question. That is the question we all are trying to figure out, and I think it's a very very tricky, very personal question for everybody. So what I would do and what I did in my journey is I was contemplating this only. Na? Why am I here? What is the purpose? Why am I here? Over the period of time, when you start taking the guidance, when you start walking on that intuitive path, I would say the path itself reveals a lot of things. Your purpose will unfold itself. The key and the power tool, how to catch whether this is your purpose or not, or whether this is your soul calling or not, is to see the ease. If it comes with ease, if there is no resistance in that path, and there is no clash, because clash comes from ego. I don't want to do this, I want to do it like this, I want. So if nobody is watching you, there is no social media, there is no putting video online or anything, what you are doing right now at that point of time, that nobody is watching you, that is your purpose. Actually that gives your soul that satisfaction. Even if I don't get any reward, I am happy doing it. That is your
Uh,
purpose. Yeah.
are there any more questions for me? Because I
Yes,
need.
sir.
Bolo, tell me.
Yes, sir.
Ah.
Sir, regarding the connection between science and spirituality, do you think they equally influence each other or one is above the other?
See, this is what I spoke in my talk. To me, there is no dichotomy. And what I would suggest is this book, Exploring the Mind of God, is everything about whatever you are asking. There are these essays that I've been writing for the last 20 years, and they've explored every aspect of the brain, the body, the environment, and other things associated with lifestyle. And I think if the students and all of you go through it, then it might be very useful. And I must really thank the organizers for inviting me, and I wish you best in all the things. Okay, I'm signing off.
Okay, sir.
Thank you.
Ma'am, there's a question for you that is there any scientific evidence of these spiritual practices?
Yes, definitely. There are many scientific evidences actually. So I am really excited that you asked this question. See, we all want that evidence, right? We want to know ki, what is the point? I mean, why should I meditate? Why should I do mindfulness practice and all? So I would like to quote Dr. Joe Dispenza's work. He's a chiropractor and he works with lot of neuroscientists and different kinds of scientists to actually decode the epigenetic evidences. Epigenetics is what? It's a genetics of environment, how environment influences our genetics, gene expression. So gene expression leads to protein production, right? So how your body works, it's depending on your gene production. So that's the study he was doing. What he noticed was that there are a lot of so in one of the experiment which they conducted was 7,500 gene expressions were studied in 32 people for a 4-day workshop. At the end of workshop, and what was they doing in the workshop, they were practicing elevated emotions and mindfulness practices, gratitude, happiness, all that. 4 days, just 4 days, 32 people, 7,500 genes, and 8 genes were upregulated. Now you will say, oh, 7,508 genes upregulated, what is the point? But those 8 genes were very crucial for our body. So they were cancer suppressor genes, they were neurogenetic genes, they were stem cell generations genes, they were oxidative to reduce the oxidative stress kind of genes. So what it was doing is it is reducing your chances of your cancer, it is increasing your pluripotency in your body so that new cells can be formed, it is helping you get new neurons in your brain. So these were the rewards your body got when you just practice for 4 days. Those guys when practice for 4 days, this was the reward. So this is a good one. And another example I'll give from the same Dr. Joe Dispenza's work. So these telomeres, no, these are little shoestring kind of a thing at the end of DNA, and they tell our biological age, not the chronological, but the biological age of the body of that DNA. So what they did, same 32, not same set of people, but 32 people they picked up. I don't know 32 why, but 32 people they picked up to practice meditation for 5 days a week for 60 days. So this was conducted for, now they wanted to see if it is done for extended period of time, how does it affect the body. And what they found out was that telomere length was increased in 74% participants. 40% showed a significant change in length, 4 to 8 days increased, and 22% showed remarkable increase in length. So 8 to 16 days of life was given back to them. So this is the power of your meditation. When you meditate, you get your life back, and it is like back, because you actually gained that life back. It is nothing else but you got back. And your obviously your all genes are getting properly regulated on time. So definitely these are very powerful evidences, and there are many more. I know we have a time constraint, so I'll not go deeper into that, but I'll be very happy to connect one on one as well, to anyone who might be interested. My website is www.dikshalife.com. I'm available there. I'm available on LinkedIn very easily, Insta, Facebook, wherever you can find me. Please ping, and we can discuss more. We can see how I can help you in this process. I'll be very happy to contribute in whatever ways I can.
Ma'am, I will surely connect to you.
Thank you. So this was exciting session. I really learned a lot, and these questions were very relevant. Do you have any other question?
No, ma'am, this was the last question. Ma'am, actually, we learned a lot.
Wow, thank you so much. I think it was very
So,
powerful. So
thank
yeah,
you so much, ma'am, for making us aware of this innate intelligence. So, moving forward with Miss Akansha for the next segment.
thank you.
Thank you.